All right, guys, we are doing volume today. Yay! We're going to do volume of cylinders, volume of cones, and volume of spheres will be tomorrow. So volume of cylinders and volume of cones. Let's flip open our foldable. And remember, this can be, the formula is on your formula chart, which you should have a blue copy inside your composition or the one that's in the front of the composition. But if you look on your formula chart, volume equals pi times radius squared times the height. Where does the pi r squared come from? Because volume equals big B times H, and we know big B stands for area of the base. On a cylinder, if you look at it, the base is a circle, so area of a circle is pi r squared times height. All right, number 1 says, find the volume of the cylinder below. It says to use 3.14 for pi, but you'll have your calculator so you can actually use the pi button. And it says round it to the nearest tenth if necessary. So when we look at our figure, we know that our equation is pi r squared times h, right? So we're going to have to find the r, which is the radius, and the height of the figure. When we look, we see our radius is 5 centimeters, half of the circle, and the height of the figure is 9. So we're going to rewrite our formula, pi r squared h, and we're basically just plugging everything in. So our volume is going to equal the pi button on your calculator times the radius, which is 5 squared, times the height of the figure, which is 9. And when you put all that in your calculator, pi times 5 squared times 9, or some of you might want to, instead of putting 5 squared, put 5 times 5, that's okay. Then your complete volume should come out to 706.5. And then we're talking about volume, so volume is in units cubed. If you remember with our area was in units squared, volume is in units cubed. Everybody got it? So pause it if you need time to copy that down. All right, number 2. So we see we're given a cylinder with the base of a circle, so we're using the same formula, volume equals pi r squared h. So for our formula, we're going to have to find the radius. It's already half of the figure, so our radius is 8. And the height, if we were to stand this can up, is 13. And so when we plug in everything we have volume equals pi times the radius, which is 8 squared, times our height, which is 13. And so multiply that all in your calculator, pi times 8 squared times 13. Your answer should come out to volume equals 2,612.5. And this is in inches, so this one is going to be what? Hopefully you said inches cubed. Good job. All right, let's look at number 3. Number 3, look at the whole figure. It's the entire line from one side of the cylinder to the other side. So that represents the what? The diameter. We do not need the diameter for our figure. Our formula, we need the radius. So remember, to find the radius, you have to take your diameter and divide it by 2. And so our radius is 9. The height of the figure is 7. And so now we can proceed with our formula, which is pi times radius squared times the height. So if y'all want to try this one on your own, you can pause it and plug everything in and then go back over it. Or if not, we can keep going. All right, so when we plug it in, we end up with pi times our radius, which is 9 squared, times our height, which is 7. So type that in your calculator. Pi times 9 squared times 7. And your volume should come out to be 1,780.4. And if we look at the units, it's feet cubed. Everybody got it? And then finally, number 4. Well, pause it because I know it's going to take you some time to just kind of absorb it, understand it. So pause it if you need to. And then when you're ready, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, using the same formula, pi times the radius squared times height. You notice they're giving us the full diameter. We don't need a diameter of 12. For our formula, we need the radius, so we need to take half of 12, and the radius is going to be 6. The height of our whole figure is 16. So when we plug it in, we end up with pi times 6 squared times the height, which is 16. Multiply all that in your calculator. Pi times 6 squared times 16. And then hopefully your answer came out to be 1,808.6 meters cubed. Everybody got it? All right, flip it over. And now we're going to be looking at a cone. I remember some of you were talking about you wanted to do cones last week. So now we're at a cone. The formula for a cone, if you look at your formula chart, is going to be 1/3. This is for volume. Pi times radius squared times the height of the figure. So you're basically taking the area of the base times the height, big B, because remember area of the base is big B, times the height, and then you divide it by 3. So I like to use a formula where I take pi times radius squared times height and divide it all by 3. Because sometimes that 1/3 can confuse you. So basically just put all of that, the pi times radius squared times the height, all over 3. Just for like a triangle, how we do half base times height, and so we just basically say base times height divided by 2. It's the same concept, except we're just doing pi times radius squared times height and then dividing it all by 3. That way that 1/3 doesn't throw you off, because it is a repeating decimal if you try to just type it in on your calculator. So just multiply base times height, area of the base times height, and divide by 3. So this is the formula that I'm kind of going to work off of. All right. It says find the volume of the cone below. Use 3.14 for pi. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So write my formula. Pi times radius squared times height all over 3. Everybody got it? If you notice on a cone, the height comes from the middle, just like on a triangle. So when you find a volume of a cone, you use the height that goes from the tip on the inside to the bottom base of that circle. Cone is just like an ice cream cone where you have a base of a circle and then it meets at the top like a triangle. Everybody got it? So now we have our radius. You see half of our base is 4. And the height of the whole figure is 6. And so when we plug it in, we end up with pi times 4 squared times 6, all divided by, excuse me, bless me, all divided by 3. So if I were you, I would multiply that whole top first. The pi times a 4 squared times a 6, and then that's going to give you 301.44. Then go and divide it all by 3. That way you don't have multiple things going on. Because remember, if you type it all in your calculator, pi times 4 squared times 6, all divided by 3, your calculator is going to automatically do PEMDAS. So you have squares in here, you have multiplication, you have division. So just to be on the safe side, multiply all at the top first, get 301.4, and then your final step, divide it all by 3. And so then your final volume is going to come out to be 100.5 inches cubed. Got it? All right, let's try another example. Example 2 says the height of the whole cone is 9. We see the radius of our base, the circle, is 5. So we have r is equal to 5. Height is equal to 9. I'm going to plug it into the formula. Pi times my radius squared, 5 squared, times 9 all over 3. Now I'm only going to multiply the top first. Pi times 5 squared times 9. Put that in your calculator. And that's going to give you 706.5. And then the final step, we're going to do the divided by 3, the 1/3 of that. So 706.5 divided by 3, your volume should have came out to be 235.5. And the units are feet cubed. I'm not going past this dotted line because in order for it to fit in the composition, we know we're going to cut that off. There we go. So 235.5 feet cubed. All right, number 3, you could try on your own. But first, before you put it in your calculator and pause it to try on your own, be careful. This whole thing down here is the diameter. The diameter is 5, but we don't want the diameter. We want the radius, so we take half of 5, and so your radius that you're going to use for this problem is 2.5. So pause it and try number 3 on your own. Write your formula, set it up, and plug it in. All right, so follow along with me just so we can check and see if this is what you got when you tried it on your own. So your height is 8, so we're going to plug it in, and we get pi times 2.5 squared times your height, which is 8, all divided by 3. Hopefully you multiplied the top first. And when you multiply at the top, you should have got 157, all divided by 3. And your final volume came out to be 52.3 centimeters cubed. Everybody got it? All right, and then if you want to pause for the final example for today, because we're not doing spheres until tomorrow, you can pause it and then come back to see if you got it right. So the diameter here is 18. We need a radius, so we take half of that and get 9. So our equation is pi times 9 squared times 11.5, all divided by 3. And so when I multiply the top, pi times 9 squared times 11.5, I got a pretty big number, 2,924.91, and divide that by 3. And so then the volume came out to be 975.0 meters cubed. Everybody got it? All right, and that sums up volume of cones and volume of cylinders, and we will do spheres together tomorrow.